Welcome, Richard.
How's everyone doing?
We're doing well.
Hey, look at that. Fantastic.
In 44.
We're doing well.
Excellent.
How are you doing?
Hey, you know, it's a never-ending cycle of learning new stuff.
Yeah, we know.
Know what Toastmasters is all about?
You know, I don't think it was meant to be this dynamic of a learning environment in such a short period of time.
And I would agree with that, Richard.
But you're all doing a tremendous job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just making it interesting for your first year as president.
Yep. Yeah. No one said it was going to be this easy.
Absolutely.
All right, the Facebook Live is starting, so we will kick it off in just 1 second while it refreshes.
This is the first Facebook Live I've done, just so you know.
Oh, exciting.
Well, we'll see about that. I'll have somebody go on Facebook and tell me later.
Oh, it says it's live.
All right. Welcome, District 44, to Blog Talk Radio gone Facebook Live. I want to welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us. Big welcome to our guest today, Richard Peck, the International President-elect of Toastmasters International. We're also joined here live by the Quad. We have Phyllis Breach, Phyllis Breach, District Director, Karen Doyle, Program Quality Director, and Kari Evans, Public Relations Manager. There we go. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
and thank you for having me.
Absolutely excited to have you on here. So our topic today is leading through challenging times. Can anybody here relate to that?
No, not at all.
Not even a little bit. So yes, obviously we are in very challenging times, different times than any of us expected going into 2020, but we are Toastmasters, and what we do is we pivot, we adjust, we overcome, we adapt, and we move forward. And that's what we're going to do today. And Richard is going to share with us some of his experiences that he's had throughout his life doing just that. So Richard, first tell us, what clubs are you a member of?
So I'm a member of 2 clubs here in Connecticut, Nutmeg Toastmasters, club number 764, which is just celebrated its 70th anniversary.
70th?
Yeah, 70th. But one of our big claims is that we have the original charter that's got Dr. Smedley's signature on it. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, no kidding.
At each of our meetings. Yeah, and I'm also a member of Park City Toastmasters in Stratford, Connecticut.
Now, are they both regular clubs, or is one an advanced club?
They're both regular clubs.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And how long have you been a Toastmaster?
Almost 14 years. We haven't quite made it yet. It's almost 14 years. I think towards the end of June will be 14.
All right. But if you think about it, 14 years really isn't a long time. And I mean, you're now set to inherit the post of president of Toastmasters International in just 14 years. So that's pretty impressive. And what led you down that path?
Somebody asking me to step up into leadership. Probably similar to each one of you who is joining us on Facebook Live or sitting here on Zoom. Somebody needed help and asked for it, and we're not the types of individuals who let people fail. So we jump in and offer to help out. Somewhere along the lines, you get on that train and you don't seem to get off because you realize that you can help more and more individuals along the way. And for me, it's not about helping every individual. It's about making sure we help one individual at a time, who in turn helps another individual, because there's no way any of us could reach out to 400,000 members at any one point in time. But we can make impacts in groupings and hope that spreads to the larger audience. But probably similar to the way Phyllis and Karen and Carrie got involved, somebody said, hey, I think you'd be good in this role. Would you please step on up? And yeah, we stepped on up.
And here you are.
Yeah.
Here
So
we
tell
are.
us, not just during this challenging time, but through other challenging times perhaps you've had in your life, what can you share with the district and things that you've learned in hindsight that helped you lead through those challenging times?
Good question. I think one of the characteristics of leaders is we try to do it all ourselves. That's just the way we are. We see an obstacle and we try to get it out of the way. And unfortunately, that's not leadership. That's doing things by ourselves. And over the course of my career, both in my business career and here, I've had to learn that you need to get help from others to accomplish goals. You can't do things all yourself. And I think I first realized the importance of that in 2009. I was 3 years in Toastmasters. I started in 2006. And I was incoming Lieutenant Governor Marketing at the time, Club Growth Director now. And I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had to go through the cancer treatments, the chemo, the radiation, the surgery, still needed to live up to what I viewed as my responsibility as Club Growth Director, and knew that I couldn't do it by myself, and realized the importance of having others and relying on others to help you. And I think, although that sounds like an extreme measure, we're in that same situation today with COVID-19. We can't get out of our houses. Never before in recent times have we been required to be so separate, yet needed to be so close together. And using technology and reaching out to people is how we can do that. And we don't feel like we're siloed because we have the ability to reach out. And I think that's one of the key items right now, is for our leaders to realize that they're not alone. They're not by themselves. There's a rare opportunity going on right now where districts and clubs and regions can invite international directors and international officers to attend meetings like this that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to if we weren't in this situation, and get to meet with us and have us get to meet with you and understand what your concerns are. I think that's the big takeaway in all of this, is not to try and do it yourself. If you thought it was overwhelming when you were in the same room with people, could have those face-to-face meetings, if you will, and I know this is technically face-to-face, imagine now being at home, sequestered, can't get out, and all that you have is right there in front of you. And if you don't have a family with you, if you don't have pets like I have or anything along those lines, you're really feeling alone. And for a district leader or a leader of any type, or even our members, that can be overwhelming. And this allows us to bridge that gap and keep them involved and let them know we're thinking about them and caring about them.
That makes a lot of sense. And you made a couple of great points there. Let's start with, even though this is face-to-face, it's not really face-to-face. And I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but I've talked with a lot of people, a lot of Toastmasters in particular, that really miss that connection. But yet this does, it's, I guess, the next best thing to being there.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but they miss the physical presence.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about that, to be in the same room with someone, to have the time either before or after a meeting. A lot of things get discussed and a lot of things get solved, not necessarily in the meeting environment. Maybe the meeting's done, you've got 5 or 10 minutes of social time, you're talking about the club, you're talking about the district, those type of things, or you're talking about what's going on in someone's personal life. And maybe some things that you can help them with. It gives the ideal opportunity for mentoring. Unfortunately, when you're on a webinar or a Zoom call, whatever, the minute you hit leave the meeting, that conversation's over. It's that time before and afterwards, I think that is really important for our members.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. That does bring up a good point. A lot of that camaraderie does happen outside the meeting, and that does get missed when we're now, we're not showing up necessarily 10 minutes early for the meeting or 15 minutes early for the meeting because we don't have to. It's right there. You click a button or a couple of buttons and suddenly you're in the meeting.
There's another side to this that I don't think we think about enough. And there's a vulnerability aspect of this. And I say that because we now have people that we're letting into our homes, and they're letting us into their homes, which is totally different than a normal club meeting, where you're sitting together in wherever that community location is. But now I get to see what books you have on the wall, what pictures you have hanging, if you have a cat or dog or children running around. I get to see that. Think about the people and who we're inviting, and is that something that you're normally accustomed to or not? Having those people, we're all comfortable with letting people into our house, but there's also that need for a little bit of solitude, if you will, that area of safety. So there are those things that we have to be concerned about as well, and have to be careful. That's why I have the virtual background. The virtual background blocks all of whatever's behind you. So we don't know if you have books on the shelf, or if you're burning something in the oven behind you or on the stovetop, because we've got a background up, we can't see it. So it does give that a little bit of that partition between you and your home environment.
That's true. And hey, just for the record, everybody, we did not plan these same matching virtual backgrounds ahead of time. That was not planned. That was just kismet. So sometimes things just happen. And everything, what's the saying, right? Everything happens for a reason.
Yes, it does.
So what have you done within your own clubs to keep that engagement level high, to keep the members participating or maybe sharing outside of the club?
That's a tough part, because one of my clubs is in a rebuilding phase, which this is making it very difficult to recruit new members, and keep those members actively engaged. It has allowed us to reach out to past members, though, and say, hey, we know that the scheduling was a little bit off for you at the time, but now we're meeting online. You don't have to leave your house. You can join us for, an hour meeting and see if it works out better this way for you. The other club I belong to is, a 30+ member club. So they're just constantly engaged. They've always been engaged. And I think it depends on the club, the type of club. If it was one that was always actively engaged, probably going to stay actively engaged. If it was one that was struggling, this is going to make it a little bit more difficult for it. But if you can think about ways to reach out and get people involved. I've also noticed that for some clubs, what normally would start out as a 2-hour meeting has gotten shorter, because now you're doing things, you're running through things. Normally you're not taking a break like you normally would. Sometimes what used to be done for voting for best speakers and best table talkers aren't being done now. So there's time that's being reduced. And if it was an issue with someone saying, well, I really can't come for an hour and a half or 2-hour meeting, it's a little bit more streamlined now, I think, and that's helping out.
Have you actually had any members show up for a club meeting that haven't maybe attended in a while?
No, not yet. Not Nutmeg. In Park City, they have had some that have showed up who haven't been there for a while. Some that got a hold of the Zoom invite and decided they would take a shot at it.
We actually, in one of my clubs, we did have one of the members who hasn't been there in years, and they have now showed up twice in a row. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah.
So it does lend, like you mentioned, a possibility of members where there was a conflict and they couldn't attend due to a conflict. I've also seen where members had were about to step back because they had overcommitted themselves to other things. Well, now the other things don't exist anymore. So now they're back to Toastmasters.
One of the things we're doing is we have a meetup group, like a lot of clubs and districts do, and we're using this lockdown as a catchphrase, if you will, in it. You know, do you want to get out of this lockdown? Do you still need to build your skills? Do you still need to need to interact with people? And this is the ideal way to do that. I think the risk in doing some of those, though, is if you have a Zoom account and you start putting them out on the public media like that, you're not sure who's joining at any one point in time, and you have to be very, very careful of that. And as we know, there have been people who have, bombed in on Zoom calls. So
right.
Making sure you can handle that properly.
Right. That's true. So have you found yourself, there's a couple questions that brought up, but have you found yourself reevaluating, reassessing your priorities and what you considered important before, and maybe there's a difference now?
Yeah, that's really an interesting question. Somewhere around January, February, Normal left the building and never to be seen again. And as I started thinking about coming into August of this year and, assuming the office of president, I said, well, this is good. What we'll do is we'll take the successes we have, we'll just continue to flow through them and build on them. And then COVID-19 happened. And we don't know what the new face of normal looks like. And what was a priority at one point in time is now changed a little bit. And now, how do we get us back to what normal will be? And how do we define what that is? How do we ensure that once this is all said and done with, your members are willing to go back to a club environment and not prefer to be online?
Right.
How do we look at the numbers at the end of the year and say, okay, we have to change the direction now if we're out of this? And we don't know that we will be. The numbers keep changing. We heard that there was a decline, and now all of a sudden people are retesting as positive after they were cleared of it. So I think we still don't know what the future is going to look like. And I can tell you it's not going to be cleared up in the next 3 weeks like some people think it will be.
Right.
The other thing is, when we think about it, you got to think about it from a global perspective. I think a lot of times members feel that we're slow to react or accomplish things. And that's just an appearance. When you're trying to do things that encompass 400,000 people in 120 plus countries around the world, what's right in one area is not going to be right in the other. And how you find that good balance in there. We've got cultural differences within states. When you try and balance, you're all laughing, you all know it. And we're trying to balance how we do the right thing so that it has a positive impact on everybody. And it takes time. And do we always get it right? No, nobody can ever say they've always got everything right. But you learn from the experience and then you move forward from that. You asked me about challenges, and my opinion on challenges is that a challenge is just an unrealized opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to turn it into what you want it to be.
I think Zig Ziglar said it's not a stopping stone, it's a stepping stone.
That's it. That's it. A maze is full of walls, but if you keep your hand on one of them, it's going to lead you out the other side. Any roadblock is the same way. Just keep your hand against it. You'll find your way out.
That's true. So what do you think in terms of Toastmasters International? How do you think this virtual element is going to look going forward?
Oh, that's a question I don't think I can answer. I really can't. I think more clubs may be open to allowing online participation, but they, as you stated earlier, Rick, they missed that being in the same room, the same proximity aspect of it. So it may allow them to have individuals joining from outside the club. For example, you've got a family member, or a member of your club who's a family member who has to be home to take care of something, a new child, a sick family member. Would they be able to come? No, probably not. Well, we are allowing you to join us online, and we're following the policy regarding online membership. That may be the face of change right there. Don't know, but time will tell.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. And I know we're running out of time, and I don't want to keep you too long. One last question. Do you feel that this is an opportunity for everybody to kind of regroup and come out stronger as far as their skill set, whatever that may be, their goals, all of that on the other side of this?
Oh, absolutely. If you're taking advantage of what's available to you, I think you have no choice but to be stronger. We're on webinars now more often than we might be at work. We're learning new presentation skills that we probably wouldn't learn otherwise. I'm still trying to figure out where to put my light so that the light is in the right direction. So I'm learning those things and skills. I learned I had to block the light over my head because it put this big beacon right here. So yeah, I think there's more skill set that we're learning coming out of this. I think extroverts are learning what introverts are like, and introverts are now learning what extroverts are like, right? So we're all overcoming those different things. Learning how to do a presentation over Zoom, being able to share your screen and do a PowerPoint in your speeches, things you wouldn't have normally had to do, and figure out how to balance all those pieces back and forth. Yeah, I think we're coming out of this strong. I have no doubt about it that we will. It will take us a little bit of time to realize the strength we've gained, though.
Right.
And I think organizationally, what you've seen is that we're being a little bit more proactive and able to make decisions a little bit quicker to help the district leaders. And I think if that's one of the things we learned from this, that's a really positive look from the organizational standpoint.
I absolutely agree. Before we wrap up, anyone from the quad have a question for Richard?
I'm good. I think Ricky did a great job covering all aspects of what we're living in right now. And Richard, it was great seeing you here on our Zoom.
Likewise.
Definitely, it's always a pleasure to connect with you, Richard, and the value and the wisdom that you share with our district is always welcome. And a lot of the things that you talked about as far as leading through challenging times, we as a quad have been implementing a lot of those things and making sure our members stay connected with their members through this virtual platform, and really putting it out there to help them to see that they are gaining new skills and able to use those and take those out to our community. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your, I know what is a busy time, and to spend time with District 44 and our members.
So I don't know if you can see the quote that I put up behind me and can read it.
Yes.
But the storm that I use in this is what we're going through right now. And yeah, we'll come out of it, but we won't be the same people that walked into it. And,
right.
And that's what I expect from our organization. That's what I expect from our members. They'll be different than when they went into it. They'll be stronger and they'll be more savvy than what we thought.
Absolutely. One last thing before we go.
Sure.
One last thing. When do you think you can get back to drag racing?
Well, if they open the tracks back up, that would be a plus. I broke my car. I broke my motor last year, so we've just finished rebuilding it. I'm picking it up this weekend. So if the tracks ever decide to reopen, we'll be out there. Usually after convention, I go for a 3-day event just to unwind. So we'll see.
Convention? Nice. What convention?
Toastmasters International Convention. You know what convention.
Awesome. We're looking forward to Paris.
Well, Richard, thank you again so much for being on our first ever Blog Talk Radio Facebook Live. Really appreciate having you. And
thank you.
Good luck with the remainder of this year and into the next fiscal year for Toastmasters.
Thank you. And my best to all the members of District 44. Take care.
Thank you.
Richard.
Rick.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.